Hey, everybody. Welcome to Breakfast with Gatorchatter. You may notice the amazing, oxrageous Aaron Bland himself is not starting today's broadcast, having some technical difficulties. So you're stuck with me for a little bit here. I don't have the sultry tones of Ox, but we do have a lot to talk about, and we'd be remiss if we weren't able to get some stuff out into the ether and chat about all things Gator Nation this fine morning. Certainly, we find ourselves in a position where we don't want to be as a fan base. And it's often the case, this is often the case when you've got a couple of people in power that don't do the right things for their own selfish purposes. And we're seeing that play out in real time during this coaching search more than ever. Uh, Everything's kind of out in the open these days, and for better or worse, I kind of like it because you're able to know things for what they really are, rather than guessing conspiracy theories and whatever. But as a fan base, we look like, as of this moment at 9:01 a.m. Sunday morning, in the year of our Lord 2025, we appear to be on the verge of hiring John Sumrall and the head coach for Tulane, despite what was said in the very beginning of a coaching search, which was we're going to hire a proven Power 4 coach. We're going to do all these things, and a search firm's going to do it. It looks like, as it is typically with folks in power, when they get to an outcome they're not necessarily interested in, they use their power and pull the plug. And certainly in the search for Lane Kiffin, who also looks like he's on the verge of taking the LSU job and leaving Ole Miss in the midst of a playoff bid here. It looks like that's exactly what happened. That Florida got to the altar and decided that they didn't want Lane Kiffin, which calls into question whether they ever wanted him at all. And we'll talk more about that here in a little bit, about what this means with John Sumrall, what it means for the nation. I think a lot of folks already know kind of what it means, but we'll talk about that. But first, we had a very important rivalry game. It's important to me as a child of two Seminoles, and a rivalry that goes back to the beginnings of the Florida State football program with Bobby Bowden, and what they became to us as a rival, and as we fought for things. It's always an important game. Records be damned. I know there were a lot of folks who were pissed off at what was going on, and rightfully so. Screw it. I hope we lose to that. But that's never coming out of my mouth. I always want to beat the Bulldogs, and I always want to beat the Noles. Definitely those two teams. Of course, I want to beat everybody, Vols, LSU, all of them. But those two rivals mean the most to me personally as a Gator. And playing the Florida State Seminoles, who were in a similar state of disrepair, to lose to them at home, you couldn't do it. But at the same time, as Aaron would say, you probably couldn't be guaranteed a win, even as bad as they've been, after upsetting Alabama in week 1 or week 0, whatever it was. We couldn't guarantee a win. In fact, I was dubious whether we could pull it together in there. But from the very first snap, Florida was in control of the football game. And what Billy Gonzalez and the team was able to do was levy a crushing defeat, and couldn't put a bigger smile on my face. And even talking about it after the fact, it puts a smile on my face to crush them like we did, and how we did it. It was even more satisfying to do something that our former coach Billy Napier wouldn't ever do, which is feed Jaden Ball and dare the Noles to stop him. And guess what? They didn't stop him. Jaden Ball went on to set a school record for rushing yards against the Noles. Woohoo! I love to see it. Aaron and I on this very show were calling that we should give him the ball 40 times. Well, he came awfully close to getting 40, and he put up a yardage total we haven't seen since I was sitting in the swamp, which wasn't even the swamp yet, with pre-Spurrier, turf field, when we watched Emmitt Smith go off against New Mexico, the Terrence Mathis-led Lobos, I believe. And what a game that was. What a game this was. And very similar. That offense with Gary Darnell-led Gators was basically Emmitt left, Emmitt right. And Emmitt still was able to get the job done. And it was very much the same in this game against the Seminoles. It was ball left, ball right, ball up the middle. And Jaden Ball put on a display for the ages. It said got the record against FSU, most yards since Emmitt, and got his 1,000 yards, something that I don't believe has happened since Kelvin Taylor, and his first sophomore to do it since, I believe, Emmitt. So, I mean, that is, or Faiza, whatever. He set a lot of records. He has been a shining light. He and Miles Graham have been shining lights in a season that had very few. So to watch Jaden Ball get his flowers nationally, and he did. In fact, the ESPN guys were talking about he's going to be the most sought-after player this year. I thought that was tampering, but whatever. He's probably right. He'll get whatever he wants from whatever school he wants, whether it's Ohio State, Texas. He'll be on a contender next year, and he's earned it because he's done it all with a lot of class. He didn't ever balk when Billy Napier was yanking carries from him, getting 10 to 13 carries a game. Utter negligence when it comes to a guy like Jaden Ball. And to see Ball do it and be able to do things we really haven't seen in the program, I would say, I know Kelvin did it, and I was a big Kelvin Taylor fan, but probably since Theatric Faison in the Zook years. Fantastic. Fantastic to see. And Aaron brought up a good point in chat box. Ox said that, it's been that long, but we have to remember the day and age, and even with Muschamp, who wanted to run the ball, split carries, a bell cow back, it's kind of gotten passé. But you see exactly what can happen when you have somebody that's worthy of that kind of workload, and Jaden Ball is. So kudos to Jaden Ball. And to do it against the Noles, chef's kiss. Just absolutely beautiful. And I wanted to talk about the last score because the quotes have come out that Ball was told he should slide and run out the game. And that's good strategy if it's a one-score game and the game is in the balance. But this wasn't the case. And Jaden Ball's like, nah, don't do that to me. I hate those guys. Jaden Ball, you couldn't be any more dear to our hearts. What makes a Gator happier than to hear somebody that wants to go for the throat? Screw those guys. Amen to that. And Jaden Ball took it in, got called back. We had 2 touchdowns called back in this game. I don't know if anybody keeps those stats out there, but we've had a number of them, and certainly per capita, since we didn't have a lot of possessions this year, thanks to Mr. Shrink the Game. We had a lot of them called back, and Ball had an amazing run called back, and he makes an even more amazing run to finish it off. Jaden Ball, everybody. So I'm going to miss him. I really don't think that given the kind of opportunity Jaden Ball will have, we'll see him come back. And that was the game. 40 points. I'll put 40 on him. Brilliant game. And for a moment, gave 90,000 people, by the way, 90,000 people for a 3-8 team when we were very pissed off about what was going on. There we were, screaming, yelling, singing. By the way, FSU, classless as always. We're about to do the 2-bits thing, and here they come on the field. They run their team on the field, the band's playing, bunch of idiots. You don't have any, I know we're rivals. You can't have a modicum of class to that interrupted 2-bits. We had to wait for Noah Bridnice to do it, which we did right afterwards. And then during during our third to fourth quarter, when we are the boys and I won't back down. For the last time this season, those clowns played their war chant the whole time. You know, they drowned them out. I mean, on every audio that I've heard, you have to strain to listen to them. But the fact that they were going to do that, man, just make sure. I wish we could score another touchdown against them. Absolutely pathetic and horrible. And it's exactly what you expect from those guys. Classless, brainless, and, futureless, because they have to bring Mike Norvell back next year. That's good news for whoever takes the reins at the University of Florida, because Norvell has famously now lost to two interim coaches, lost to the powerhouse Greg Knox, and now he's lost to Billy Gonzalez and given Billy his only win, and a memorable one at that. Thank you, Billy Gonzalez, for taking the reins. I know there's a lot of folks that are out there. I think you got to get everybody out. I love what Billy did, and he's a Gator for life in my mind. But, fresh start for this program. We can bring him back as soon as this next guy fails out there. So let's talk about that. The rivalry game put aside, get to put another stake in the coffin of Florida State football. And then we're treated to getting back to the reality of the situation, which is the Florida coaching search. And it's really not a search. Because despite hiring Turnkey to run the point for their discovery, it looks like the powers that be, and those powers are Scott Strickland, less, Gary Condon. Gary Condon, big wealthy donor. His name's on the baseball field. If you don't know, decided at the last minute they didn't want Lane Kiffin. Called it irregular communication, which to me, in my translation, and the millionaires and billionaires that are watching this broadcast can tell me afterwards. Put it in the thread on Gatorchatter. What that means to me is we said what we wanted, and there was pushback, and we don't like pushback. We want someone that's going to kiss our ring and shine our shoes, and that's what we want from a submissive. We want somebody submissive, which is what we'd said all along in this coaching search, that Scott Strickland, and now we know Gary Condon, does not want somebody that's going to push back. Their egos are so large, the narcissism at a large degree, that they can't handle anybody that. So we said it in October when you all asked me for a list, when you're asking Ox for a list, we said it. Well, they'll never hire somebody that's bigger than they are. Big names are out. So you can cross Marcus Freeman, James Franklin, Lane Kiffin, and Lincoln Riley off your lists because they have a modicum of ego and they're going to insist their things are a certain way. Well, that won't do. We need a bootlicker. And so we gave you the list of bootlickers that we thought would be there. We started, with Fish, Jed Fish up in Washington, John Summerall at Tulane, Alex Golish at USF, and then Bob Chesney at James Madison. And we said, this is probably your top list of guys that they would really consider because those are the guys they can push around. Those are the guys that really don't deserve to take the reins at the University of Florida. And the job is, they're way underqualified to take that job because they don't have the experience, they don't have the winning, they don't have it. All the things that at the beginning of this coaching search, Scott Strickland said that's what we're looking for, and Turnkey's going to go find them. Those guys don't have. Now, they might be great guys and great coaches, maybe, at their level. But we just went through this. We did this already, where we took a guy that was doing great where he was, but didn't have the experience at the top. We turned away Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley, and we said, we're hiring you, Billy Napier. We're going to give you everything. And they did. You can't say they didn't give it everything. But they knew. They were hoping that Billy Napier would work out because they wanted a guy that was submissive to them and that would not question their ego and power and they would hope it would work out on the field. In fact, we knew it wasn't working out, and Scott Strickland decided he would cover his butt before his extension and keep Billy Napier. Status quo. Let's keep the status quo. And he could have done the right thing and fired Billy, and you wouldn't be competing against 8 other schools, big schools, for coaches. But there we were. If you see everything through that paradigm, through that prism of how can Scott Strickland keep his power and his job, it makes perfect sense. And it's why we knew in our heart of hearts that this is where we would end up. On the doorstep of hiring another small school coach. Sorry, Tulane, I know you're top 25, but you're small school. Everybody says so. And it's the truth. And not just hiring a small school coach. If you're hiring a small school coach with a big offense and some imagination and truly take advantage of the talent that's in the state of Florida, speed, spread them out. That's not John Sumrall. John Sumrall is the same Will Muschamp, Billy Napier type strategy coach. Keep it close, grind it out, shrink the game, and come out ahead. They played Charlotte last night. Tulane played Charlotte last night. Charlotte's terrible. And have given up 35 points, I think, to like 5 or 6 teams this year. And if you look at their schedule, you'll see that even though Georgia was one of them, not every school was Georgia to do that. What did Tulane do? Well, they kept it close. Worked hard on defense, shut out a very bad Charlotte team. Not hard to do. And they came out with a 27-0 win. It was so Napier-esque that you could almost hear him say, scared money don't make money. It was bad. And that's what the future holds. They're hoping that the only problem with the Napier era is we didn't hire an offensive coach. That's wrong. The problem with Will Muschamp and Billy Napier wasn't that they weren't willing to hire an offensive coach, although with Napier, maybe it would have helped. But ultimately, it's that mindset and strategy of keep it close, one score football, shrink the game. That is, frankly, what you do when you're under-talented. When you're punching up, that's the kind of strategy that makes sense. That's a kind of small school strategy that's out there. And that doesn't play at the University of Florida. Now, you can say, and I've heard people already, we're not what we think we are. Whatever. What we do have is a talent bed full of skill players. And to dumb that down, to do the Derrick Henry on defense style of coaching, that doesn't work. It's proven it doesn't work. You can go back through the years and look at the history of Florida. When were we ultimately successful? Ray Graves pitching it around with Spurrier and John Reeves and Alvarez, right? That's where we were successful. We were successful when we were with Spurrier, spreading the field, changing the SEC, raising the ceiling. We were successful under Urban Meyer, where we spread them out, used our speed to win games. That's where we were successful. That's what's successful at the University of Florida. Every time we've tried to do it the other way, we've been miserably average and worse this year and other years. We failed. You could even argue that Dan Mullen was successful with that as long as he had players. But then he quit recruiting and coaching in 2020 and just let it sink. And, of course, he was too big on loyalty and kept Todd Grantham around. So it didn't matter how many points we scored. And that's where we're headed with this John Sumrall hire. I feel bad. Aaron Bland. I feel bad for the fans that are just going to try to make the best of it. Maybe Napier plus an offensive thing, maybe the Sumrall hire will work because we're going to bring in brilliant offensive minds. But how does that work exactly? If it's a great offensive mind, he's going to get hired away in a year. And then what do you do? And Muschamp always tried to hire Brent Peace. He tried to hire Charlie Weiss. It didn't work. Why? Because ultimately the head coach philosophy overrules anything that you're going to do on the field.
Jason, can you hear me?
I can. Aaron Bland, the
Well,
great oxrageous. Sounds great too.
oh boy, am I am I still sounding like a frog, Jason?
No.
No.
For those of you watching in the green room when we were warming up, he sounded like Satan. I'm just saying. He sounded. It was like demons had taken over the mixer. And he sounded, it would have been hilarious, frankly, for Aaron to start the show like that. And probably, Aaron, symbolic of where we are as a program. But you sound great, and we're glad you're here.
I'm on a crappy
20 minutes of me monologuing, probably too much.
Crappy laptop camera, crappy microphone. I don't know how it's going to sound. But Jay, I appreciate you just diving in there. And of course, you covered almost everything. But this is more about the optics of what this hire looks like, where we picked a guy that basically the opposite of what they said they were going to do. Right. A G5 guy, a defensive-minded guy, and what's also funny about Sumrall is they were better before he got there. And in the 2 years prior to Sumrall arriving at Tulane, they were 23-4, and they've been 19-7 in the 2 years under Sumrall, so they're actually a little bit worse.
Right.
On paper, there's nothing to like about the hire. That statistically on defense, statistically on offense, he's supposed to be this defensive wizard, and they're ranked 90th in defense in the nation. No. So and this whole thing of we're going to hire you and give you $10 million a year, but you need to hire elite coordinators. If you're hiring someone for $10 million a year, you would hope they would know that on their own.
Absolutely.
We're going to, by God, you better get good coaches working for you. I mean, you have to tell this guy this,
right?
So we're being force fed this, and the whole thing is, we're going to land some elite OC, as you were saying. Even if we happen to land an elite offensive coordinator, which I doubt, they're going to be gone next year. But we've heard this before. Oh man, the guy they're going to bring in is going to be unbelievable. The Nussmeyers and the Charlie Weiss.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It just optically, Jason, it couldn't be any worse for the Gator Nation.
Well, it's very, to me, it's very out there with Strickland and Condren, and that we're stuck. There's nothing. The Ron DeSantis as school president is going to hit like Breaking Bad Heisenberg meth to some of us begging for change. But other than that, this is exactly where we thought we would be, Aaron. They want yes men. They want puppets. They don't want to win championships at Florida because that would require them taking a back seat to success, and they will have none of that. They want both. They want money, power, and success, and they will try anything to make that combination work. And the problem is it doesn't. It hasn't, and it won't.
Every university has the big booster, the biggest one that has influence. Right. I remember when Jimmy Haslam was running Tennessee football for years and years, and we've been theorizing that the boosters don't have as much power as they used to because the schools don't need as much money as they used to. But I think that's definitely not true, at least for the top 1, 2, 3 guys.
Yeah.
Because the school uses all that TV revenue to pay for everything else, and they use the boosters to pay for NIL and stadium upgrades and give us the money and we'll put your name on the building. Kind of thing. So if it's been proven that the good old boy network, the good old boy booster network is still alive and well, and this probably goes on at every university. But Strickland is supposed to be the one in charge. And as usual, he looks really bad.
He looks feckless. And Google the word if you don't know what it means. But absolutely the ego, the power, and the money. This is what he does. He does everything he can to protect his job, his money, and his power. When there was a scandal with the women in soccer and basketball, he ran and hid. He was going to ride it out. He certainly wasn't going to face some music, and he tried to silence the alligator that was trying to make hay about this. He wanted to silence them and only work through his puppets in the other media channels. It's the same here with the college football coach. He wants someone he can control, that Gary can control, that Hugh can control. They want to be able to do it their way. And their way means not being challenged at all, not being asked for anything. We tell you, you don't tell us. And what you get is, sorry to your lovely bride, but you get Auburn football. You get that kind of program. You get Tennessee under Haslam. You get mediocre results because you can't get out of the way. You may have been successful in construction, for example, but that doesn't guarantee success in college athletics. In fact, I think we've seen at the University of Florida, this group has been unsuccessful. Now, Ben Hill Griffin was the same way, Aaron Bland. Ben Hill Griffin was the big dollar. We were just lucky enough that he liked the right guy, Steve Spurrier, and he made Steve Spurrier happen. We don't have that right now. We don't have a guy with his finger on the pulse of what works. They're just hoping Napier Plus, Napier 2.0 helps. And I feel bad for Summerall because he's walking into a Ron Zook type situation where nobody wants him. We're just waiting for the first. He can't. The only thing he can do is inflate his bank account, which he will, and leave with a buyout in 3 years. Now,
all he can do is win, Jason. If you want to shut people up and make people happy, win.
But his style has proven not to be successful there. If he wants to win, he should stay at Tulane because he's going to get his butt kicked trying to do this at Florida because we saw it. Will Muschamp was the best version of this. And he won a little, but then failed because they just don't take advantage of what makes Florida work, which is leveraging the speed and the skill of a big offense to take advantage of the state of Florida. When Miami was great, that's what they did. When State was great, that's what they did. When we were great, that's what we did. To do it this other way, to do it the Big Ten way, doesn't work. You're not good. And that's where we are.
If Summerall wanted a hot offense, he'd have a hot offense now.
That's right.
He doesn't want it.
No.
These defensive guys, they don't want it.
They don't want it.
They have a certain way of, whether it's time of possession or whatever,
right?
They have a certain structure they want to stay in.
That's right.
So when someone like Summerall is told, hey, you need a Stein type OC from Oregon, it's probably like showing Dracula the cross. So right. Even if we bring someone in, how is he going to oversee them? Is he going to actually let them do their job?
Doesn't matter. Ultimately, you're the guy that you're the guy you are. You're the guy you're shown to be. I'm a linebacker from Kentucky. We play things this way. We keep it close. One score game. If we get down by 2 touchdowns, we're screwed because we don't build to score quickly. This is exactly what we just experienced for that. And again, Aaron, I feel bad for the folks that are going to try to make the bet. We're going to have 3 more years of pumpers and dumpers. And some folks are like, I'm just trying to root for my school. I get it. And God bless you. But we're going to be right back here in 3 years with, Gary and Scott picking another guy that they can puppeteer. It's a dead end. I'm sorry. It's a dead end. And there's nothing you can show me from Summerall's history and Florida history that tells me any different. We know where this river goes, and it's over the falls.
Jason, I got a note here on my phone while we were talking. I don't know if it's been posted on Gatorchatter yet or not, that Turnkey fired Florida on Saturday. That's sure. The note I got. Clearly because of Friday's events that Condren and Strickland executed.
Yep.
Which went to show that the whole idea of bringing in this company was just we're going to show the fans that it's not just Strickland and a couple of boosters making this pick. It was for show, it sounds like. They didn't listen to him at all, evidently.
I think they wanted Turnkey to align with them. This is what you see in business all the time. You bring in consultants, and then when the consultants don't say what you like, you fire the consultants. Or you just say, Camp, that's interesting. We're going to go a different way. And then the consultants are like, well, I don't want my name on that. I quit. Or in this case, we're going to fire Florida as a client in there. What do those guys? What does Strickland and Condren care? What do they care? It didn't line up with their puppeteering. It didn't line up to their power and and what they wanted to do. They wanted a puppet. Turnkey was probably telling them, we can get you to Lane, we can get you to Lincoln Riley, and they were told that it's just too big. Those guys, we see it on the message board. Condren said Riley's a mess. Oh, he's a mess. Well, he's had Heisman candidates. He's got, playoff, yeah, it's a mess. In other words, I can't control him. I don't want him. That is it right there. And that's where the University of Florida athletic situation is. It is in prison, held lock and key by these two fellas.
Well, I had made the point that if Summerall wins the next 10 national championships in a row, it'll still be a bad hire because they went against everything everybody wanted. They did the opposite. They'll have gotten lucky in that case because there's certainly nothing in his history or on paper that says this is going to be a successful hire. There just isn't. Maybe we'll get lucky. What else could you say, Jay?
That's right. I don't know. I think even if he is successful, which again, there's nothing, unless he has an epiphany on the road to Damascus. There's nothing that says that Summerall will change who he is. He is who he is. Looks like a fine fella. Didn't matter. Billy, fine fella, whatever. These guys are who they are. They don't want to change in there. But even if he had success, even if there was this avenue where he has the epiphany and everything changes and Florida starts winning, that's a problem for people in power. Do they start creating roadblocks? Do they start doing things behind the scenes? Do you, for example, not call the league office about Darnell Dockett twisting a knee? Do you suddenly not recognize a great team? Because that's what Foley did to Spurrier. I'll show you who's in charge. I'm the athletic director. It's foolish, but that's what these egos do. That's what they do, and that's what's happening. So even if he had a modicum of success, I can't be guaranteed that these guys won't find a way to submarine it and make him go somewhere else. Kentucky job opens up. Leave Florida, even though he's successful, to go to Kentucky. That would be something. But whatever, we can't take enough pies in the face, Aaron, enough kicks to the groin. Because as long as these guys are in charge, unless there's somebody with even more power over the top of them, which you'll see them fight. Let's say Ron DeSantis does want to be president of the University of Florida. You can bet that these money guys who see things changing under a strong thing will definitely oppose that crap. But that's really, as a Florida fan, that's your only hope. That some sort of President Messiah comes out of the work and makes change happen because they see exactly what we're seeing at this level. Good luck, Florida.
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of buzz around the program in the offseason.
No, we're finished.
Jay, I appreciate you diving in. Obviously, this was the last game of the year. So we're not going to have a breakfast with Gatorchatter for a while post-game, but we'll see what comes on over here over the next few months, see with basketball maybe, or just with off-season football news, and when the staff starts filling out, maybe we can have more of these, and they don't have to be at Sunday morning at 9. We can figure that out. But obviously, this has been fun, and made a commitment to do this year, whether it was good or bad, and we soldiered through it.
Yep.
So I appreciate it, Jay. And jumping in this morning, I had no worries you could do it. Hand you the keys, off you go. So,
well, thanks to everybody who's watching. We just, Aaron and I definitely want to encourage folks to share it. It's better when lots of people see it, but we do appreciate the folks that do and comment. If you're watching this and you're not a member of the Gatorchatter community, sign up, be a part of what's going on in there. It is definitely not for the faint of heart, but it's some of the best real opinions, and then some really bad ones too. Let's be honest. You know who you are out there in there. But we appreciate everybody that support us, and thank you, Aaron, for for firing this up and doing it, inviting me to be a part of it.
Thanks, Jay. We will see you next time, whenever that is. Thanks, man. Okay, so I hid myself instead of hiding you. Bye, Jay. All right, thanks everybody. I don't know how this will sound. We'll figure it out. The message board, social media, everything's just been insane with this coaching search. The coaching hire thread is pushing 13,000 posts since September. I drove up on Friday. It was a 4-hour drive because of traffic. And during that 4 hours, there were 400 posts on that thread that I had to catch up on when I got to Gainesville. It's just insane. I don't know how many posts there are just in this while I've been doing this podcast. But I love that participation. And I think it's a shame that it only goes nuts like this during coaching searches. And I had made a comment that it's like a reunion. You see people that disappeared years ago. They suddenly show up during a coaching search. And it's like, hey, good, welcome back, family reunion. We make a bad hire, they're gone, and hey, see you in 4 years. We have a reunion every 4 years. And we're probably looking at the same thing. So 2029, I'm going to see you folks. Again, come back and visit us for the next coaching search. In the meantime, we're going to do the best we can with what we got, because what choice do we have? Maybe we'll get lucky, but the Florida Gators haven't been lucky for a long, long, long time. Some of us were concerned during the Tebow years that we were making a deal with the devil, and it was just too good to be true. And I think we've been paying for that. You would hope the curse would end at some point, but evidently not. So thanks, everybody. I'll make announcements for any future shows, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to have more of these. Jason and I had too much fun not to. So thanks, everybody, for sticking around, and have a great holiday. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. All that stuff. Thanks, everybody.